Welcome back. I'm Bill English, the founder of OnPath Coaching and OnPath Counseling. You know, business owners come to me when they want more free time, they want to generate higher profits, build a stronger marriage, and have a closer walk with God. You know, this episode is the 6th of a 10-part series titled Narcissism in the Business Owner Community. Now, if you'd like to watch my other videos in this series, you can always visit my YouTube channel. It's under OnPath Coaching. Also, several cautions before we continue. First of all, these videos are educational in nature, and they should not be used to diagnose any mental health condition. Second, I'm going to encourage you not to label anyone as a narcissist. Narcissism is much more difficult to diagnose and to understand than what most people actually realize. And thirdly, just because a person exhibits arrogance, selfishness, or confidence, that doesn't mean that they're a narcissist. And let me add one more thing here, just kind of ad hoc. Every one of us, to a person, is going to exhibit narcissistic tendencies at one time or another. And this is because narcissism is built on the dual characteristics of pride and shame. And both of those were given to us in our fallen state when sin was introduced into the world. Pride and shame are part of our fallen nature, and thus each of us, to a person, will engage in narcissistic tendencies from time to time. A diagnosis of narcissism from a clinical perspective is really based on life patterns, not individual events. So just like every other clinical diagnosis that's, mental health in nature at least, there are degrees of intensity, or what I'm going to call gradations of fullness, if I can put it that way, toward a given mental health diagnosis. So if you find that you have some narcissistic tendencies, ask the Lord and then either your spouse or your best friend about those tendencies. The goal in asking is not to diagnose. The goal in asking is to find healing in Jesus Christ. You can't heal something that you're unaware of, and you can't heal something that you're rejecting about yourself. So if you have, narcissistic tendencies, pull those in and learn to accept them, and then lay them before Christ and let Him begin the healing process in your life. Of course, if you want to, you can always get a hold of me by visiting OnPathCounseling.com or OnPathCoaching.com. In the last video, we learned that narcissism exists on a continuum between shame at one end and grandiosity at the other. And that a narcissist is going to bounce back and forth between, deflation and inflation, loud and soft, superior and inferior, big and small, grandiose and crestfallen. So the question for the video today, this episode, is this. What are the 3 effects when a narcissist is in a grandiose state? Well, they lose 3 key elements that help build and maintain healthy intimacy in relationships, whether these relationships are life relationships or business relationships. And those 3 elements are these: empathy, emotional attachment, and awareness. Now look, the more grandiose a person is, the less empathetic that they are going to be. They're going to exhibit an inability to integrate negative emotions into their experience. So they'll suppress anger, fear, sadness. And when those negative emotions are suppressed, they don't get buried and then die. They get buried alive. And then they come out sideways in a wide range of negative psychophysiological disorders, such as headaches, ulcers, depression, panic, substance abuse, anger, rage, or even self-harming tendencies. And yes, they will lose their ability to feel tenderness towards others, and thus they can come across as cold-hearted or insensitive. Narcissists cannot be in a position of need when they feel grandiose. Instead, they will probably take others for granted and lack awareness of how those around them are feeling or even what they're thinking. There's a colloquial term that we could use here. They will lack an ability to, read the room. In addition to lacking empathy and awareness, a narcissist almost never emotionally attaches to another person. The strength of their shame keeps them from being vulnerable enough to emotionally attach. A healthy attachment requires two things. It requires humility and it requires vulnerability. And these are two qualities that a narcissist is lacking. And here's something else to note. Both their shame and their grandiosity will be isolating for them. People don't want to be around someone who is grandiose, quite frankly, and shame is so strongly self-isolating that either state will cause the narcissist to essentially isolate from other people. They'll just back away. You will find a narcissist actually lives a very lonely life, even though they won't admit it to themselves. They may have many acquaintances or, a lot of LinkedIn connections, right? But literally, they'll have no close friends. And if they're married, they will be emotionally distant from their spouse, and they will exhibit, in place of emotional intimacy, a plethora of emotionally immature characteristics. If their narcissism is left unchecked, that narcissism will cause them to become divorced. But again, they won't be able to admit that their narcissism caused their divorce. Grandiosity has a very soft underbelly of shame and hurt and helplessness, smallness and inadequacy. And the longer one stays in a grandiose state, which is to say, the longer one is hypervigilant to have the best of this world in order to earn the admiration of others and avoid facing one's dark side, the more pronounced their negative feelings will become until they hit a breaking point where they decompose under the weight of their shame and their inadequacies. Unmasking this underbelly is probably going to be very messy and very painful, but it is likely the only way that a narcissist will consider turning to Jesus Christ for healing and restoration. Now, in the next video, I'm going to discuss the connection between childhood trauma and the development of narcissism. I'm Bill English, a Minnesota psychologist, a Christian counselor, and a CEO of 5 different businesses in 5 different verticals over the last 30 years, ranging from $75,000 to $25 million. If you'd like to speak with me directly, just visit OnPathCoaching.com and then either call me directly or schedule a free 30-minute call with me. I would love to talk with you. I hope you have a blessed day. Take care.